gentlemen, I'm Anne-Marie Morell, National Director, Editor-in-Chief of Politichicks.com. And tonight we're going to have a very, very special episode of the Glazov Gang. I'm going to be turning the chairs around, and instead of Jamie interviewing me and other people, I'm going to be interviewing Jamie. And it's going to be all about a special episode that he did on Fox News on the Sean Hannity show. The episode was something that they don't really talk about that much, and it was Islam. And the title of the show was Radical Muslims on the March. And it featured Jamie and other freedom fighters like Pamela Geller and Brigitte Gabriel. But because it's Fox News, they also had the fair and balanced part and put in radical leftist Tamara Holder, who, just before this clip you're about to see, said that Brigitte Gabriel was the most dangerous person in society. Our Jamie jumped to her defense, to Brigitte's defense in this clip. Watch.
No, it's not less than that. The world event shows you the facts. The facts speak louder than words. But there are 75% moderate Muslims in the world. The moderate Muslims...
Is she a danger by calling out radicalism, or is it the people that would strap bombs on their own children in the name of jihad and holy war and a promise, in the promise of 72 virgins? Who's more dangerous?
Radical Islamists are very dangerous. They are just as dangerous as a person who spews hate and tries to change a message, a Muslim message, that the majority of moderate Muslims are somehow
all right, let me go
terrorists.
here.
You know what's so dangerous about this? You're a very dangerous person, because these are heroes standing up for the victims of Islam. And let me tell you, I study how sociopaths behave, how psychopaths behave. We see this in the Unholy Alliance right now with the left and Islam. What they do is, when a vicious ideology, totalitarian ideology, attacks us and we're victims, what these people do is they make the perpetrator the victim and the victim the perpetrator. So heroes like Pamela Geller, that made a memorial grove for Aqsa Parvez, a 16-year-old Muslim girl. She stood up for the memory of a murdered, honor-killing victim and made a memorial grove for her in Jerusalem Park. And thank you that you did that, Pamela. And she's called an Islamophobe. She's called a hater. So what's happening here is these are the heroes standing up for the victims of Islam, but what we have is an unholy alliance between the left and Islam, and they're making the heroes the perpetrators.
Right, guys,
and you're dangerous. You're dangerous by shutting us up about talking the evil that we face.
We got to take a break. We're going to come back. Don't go anywhere.
All right. So, Mr. Glazov, welcome to your gang.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be with you, Anne-Marie.
That clip was epic. It was this episode of Sean Hannity show was one of the best ever in the history of Fox News, as far as I'm concerned. It was one of the most important, for sure. Now,
I appreciate that. Thank
don't you think? I think that this episode proved the point that it's more dangerous in a leftist's mind to discuss radical Islam, or Islam, which is what it is, than actual radical Islam. Is that the truth, do you think?
No, absolutely, Anne-Marie. And, you know, I guess you could say, a bit agitated.
Wait a minute. You got a what? A bit agitated?
A bit agitated.
Wait till you see the second clip.
Okay.
Just wait.
Okay, and a little bit worked up. But in general, what I'm so tired of hearing, and what I was saying on the show, was how the left has constructed the boundaries of debate. And here we see it once again. Brigitte Gabriel, Pamela Geller, heroes. And there are many others, David Horowitz, Nani Darwish, Robert Spencer, standing up for the victims of jihad and of Islamic gender apartheid. And this means that we're also standing up for many Muslim victims, for many Muslim people. Do you think that we're Islamophobes and racists because we spend so much of our time trying to save and protect the victims of Islamic gender apartheid, for instance? Those are Muslim women, those are Muslim girls. But what happens here in terms of how the left works, because it's allied with our enemies, what the left does is it calls us racist. It says that Brigitte Gabriel is Tamara Holder, called her a dangerous person, or that I am, or that that Pamela Geller is. And this is where I reacted and wanted to point out, as I did in that clip, that somebody like Pamela Geller has built a memorial grove for a 16-year-old Muslim girl, Aqsa Parvez, that was murdered by her Muslim father and brother because she was, quote-unquote, too westernized and didn't want to wear the veil. We're on that girl's side. We're on the side of Muslim girls. And Pamela Geller couldn't even build a grave and an epitaph for Aqsa in Canada because her family said that they would tear it down. But when Pamela was trying to bring a memory to that Muslim girl and all the millions of Muslim girls that Aqsa represents in terms of the suffering under Islamic gender apartheid, she was called the racist. She was called the Islamophobe. So this is how it's working, and this is what we're trying to fight against, because the left has built these parameters of debate. And what we're trying to point out, what I'm trying to point out, is that they're the haters. They're the heartless people, because they're not standing up for the victims. They're actually making us the perpetrators instead of pointing the finger at the perpetrators.
Do you think that some of these leftists, like Tamara Holder, do you think that they really actually, they don't believe that there's a threat of Islam, or do you think that they know that there is and they're acting like turtles and they're just trying to hide, and they think that if they just disappear from it that it'll go away and not affect us?
Anne-Marie, that's the question of our time. I've been studying the left since I was a little boy. And, you know, you have to kind of, I guess...
Wait, explain that. How have you been doing that? How have you been studying the left since you were a little boy?
Well, my father and my mother were dissidents in the Soviet Union. They stood up against the Soviet Empire. We were able to get out of that evil empire. And I was 5.5 when we escaped. When we got out, that's another whole story. But I knew freedom when I smelt it. We came from tyranny. But when I breathed the oxygen of America when I first got here as a little kid, I love this country. But I see the virus that persecuted my family in the Soviet Union. And it's the left. And they have the same ideology, they have the same impulses, and they're trying to bring that system and that evil here. So, you know, at the age of 10, 11, 12, I was very interested in these things because my parents were worried about the dissidents in the Soviet Union and the Gulag. We were worried about the Andrei Sakharovs, about the Vladimir Bukovsky, about the Bukovskys, about Alexander Ginsburg. And my heart was always with the victims of totalitarianism. And so I studied why the left was always on the side of the perpetrators, okay? And so there's different, the left is the left, but yes, there's a few different brands in the sense that there's the leftist who knows exactly what he's doing, okay? And for example, that what I would say about Obama, but perhaps that's for later in the discussion, this is a deliberate destruction that they're perpetrating. Also on the left, there are the people who aren't so much conscious of what they're doing. They're complicit, they're part of this destructive movement, but they operate out of fear. They want to be popular because it's the chic thing to be a leftist. It's the cool thing to be a leftist. They want to be popular, and deep down they are afraid to, number one, accept the truth about the reality. Because you see, if you accept the truth about what we're really facing in the culture war and in the terror war, Anne-Marie, if you can just hold on to this thing about, oh, it's just a minority of Muslims who misunderstand Islam, they've perverted the teachings, those minority, and we just get rid of that minority and then everything will be okay. You see, that's easy to accept. But the real reality and the darker, horrifying reality just may be that there's something in the Quran and in the Hadiths and in the Islamic religion which inspires and sanctions jihad. And if that's the issue, then we're facing quite a threat, and we're facing quite a conflict and a confrontation eventually. For many people, this is too terrifying and depressing to accept, so they'd rather put their head in the sand and demonize the messengers and the truth tellers rather than confront the threat.
And you saw that was so evident in the very first segment of the Hannity show.
And thank you so much, Anne-Marie. And once again, we have to stress this over and over again, but it's so difficult to do this with the left in control of our discourse, is because they keep saying, oh, Brigitte, Pamela, Jamie Glazov, they're trying to say that all Muslims are terrorists, what Tamara was doing. Are you trying to say that every Muslim is a terrorist? She never said that. We don't say that all Muslims are terrorists. It's completely moronic to say something like that. But we're saying that there is a danger when there are people who are part of an ideology that may begin to take their ideology seriously and to read it. That's the danger. When Muslims start becoming devout and start reading the verses, like the verse of the sword in Surah 929 and Surah 9.5, that all teach killing the unbeliever, hating the kafir. This is a problem, and it needs to be dealt with. And
they're bringing that out. They're living that. They're not. It's not just words in a book.
Yes.
They're living that,
Yes.
and they take it seriously. And I've told people, as a Christian, if people were if there was something in the Bible that was telling people to go out and kill other Christians or people that didn't believe in Christianity, I would leave Christianity. I would not have a problem walking away from it if that's what the Bible was teaching.
Absolutely. And again, so we're not, the left likes to paint this that we're speaking about all Muslims. We're not talking about people or Muslims. We're speaking about what Islam is and what it teaches, and we're also worried about Muslim people, and we care about Muslim people that are the victims of this ideology. And my life goal is, in part, apart from the other things I do, is to come to the aid and to protect all victims of Islamic jihad and Islamic gender apartheid, which includes Muslim people. And those people who point the finger at us, I wonder if they've ever built a memorial grove for a victim of honor killing.
You write a lot about everything you're talking about in your book, of course, United in Hate. I kid around with you all the time. I call him my little brother. He pinches me and punches me in the arm sometimes.
No, you're meaner
He's
to
a
me
funny
than
guy.
you're meaner to me than I am to you.
That's not true.
Okay.
But this book, I take this book so seriously, and every conservative, every person in America should read this. This explains so much. It's factual. You present facts. It's logical. It's easy to understand. Please, 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 people, read this. The first sentence in your book.
Thank you, Anne-Marie.
Scarcely a day goes by when Islamic terrorism does not claim the lives of innocent civilians somewhere in the world. These are provable facts. This isn't stuff that you're making up. Why is it, do you think, that even Fox News, CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference, that all of us conservatives go to every year, they refuse to address this? They're hiding from it. They're running from it. That, to me, is as dangerous as Islamic terrorism.
And that is absolutely, Anne-Marie, and that's also some of the themes that I stressed on Hannity when I was talking about enabling and complicity, which I hope we will get to, because the left also likes to smear me in terms of what I'm not saying, and I would like to explain what I am saying. But yes, absolutely, and this is the tragedy. The left is in power. The left has come to power because conservatives did not know, and many of them do not know, how to fight culture war. The left has taken over our government. They've taken over academia. They've taken over the media.
Our language.
So, our language, exactly. And so therefore, now, if you have a problem with Islam, you hate Muslims. This is how they've constructed this, and this is what happened on the show.
You're an Islamophobe.
Right, Islamophobe, racist, bigot, etc. And so even at some of our major media, like Fox, even though there's really heroic people there, still fighting for the truth that I really admire.
We're proud of Sean Hannity even addressing this.
And Hannity's addressing it. Megyn Kelly, real heroes there. But in the conservative media, there's also a pressure and a suffocation of how to address these issues. And it's because the left has taken over our language.
And you were even saying, you have to say radical Islam. You're not allowed to just say Islam.
Yes, and this is where Robert Spencer is a hero and a major truth teller in our world today. Robert Spencer, look up his work. He's written many books, including The Truth About Muhammad.
Jihad Watch.
And he, at jihadwatch.org, and he is marginalized and pushed into spheres of invisibility in our culture and our media because he is telling the truth about Islam.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes in your entire book, the basis of your book summarizes the leftist fantasy as the Marxist dream of destroying the world as it is and building a utopia on its ashes. And in chapter 4, you wrote that the leftists believe human blood purifies the earth. Explain this and explain why you refer to leftists as believers in your book, United in Hate.
Well, this is the epicenter of what's happening and of my work and of what David Horowitz has devoted much of his life to writing about. Look, what we have here is the utopian impulse. So, for instance, in Sharia, with Muslims that are following the Quran, that want to, construct the caliphate on earth, They want to destroy and erase the earth that exists, and they want to build their Sharia paradise on top of the ashes. They want to create heaven on earth, the Sharia heaven. The left also wants to create a heaven on earth. It hates the reality on earth in terms of what the United States represents, in terms of especially what Israel represents, because that's freedom, that's prosperity, and that's giving all humans the right to pursue happiness and success, etc. And in that environment, there will always be inequality of outcome. People who believe in freedom and in capitalism and in the free market, we believe, as Jefferson wrote, that all people are born equal, all people are equal in the eyes of God. Of course all people are equal, but we believe that people have the opportunity to pursue success and achieve their talents, so there's going to be inequality in the end, because some people are maybe smarter than other people, some people are faster than other people. The left hates this. They want everybody the same. They want sameness. They want flatness. They hate success. They make themselves gods because they reject that perfection comes from above. They're self-appointed redeemers. And what they want to do is this: Lenin's killing squads, Stalin's killing squads, Mao's killing squads, Castro's killing squads, Sandinista killing squads, Khmer Rouge killing squads. Killing, 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 killing in the name of utopia. And Mao articulated this quite a bit when he was talking about the importance of mass murder. He wanted to kill a lot of Chinese people because in their view, human blood will purify the earth. As Christians, we believe that, well, I'll speak for myself. I'm not speaking for all people. I'm just saying I'm a Christian, and we believe that Christ's blood redeems the earth, or also redeems man. His blood redeems us, whereas there's a mutated carbon copy in the left that it's human blood that redeems the earth, and so they have to kill. And so they purify the earth through murder and carnage. And that's why so many leftists celebrated 9/11, and I document that in United in Hate. Yeah. And on that carnage, they will build their utopia. Okay? And so that's where they also unify, because the left wants to destroy the United States and freedom and capitalism, and Islam and jihadists want to destroy the United States, freedom, and the West, etc. So they have that in common.
That's why they're united in hate.
That's why they're united
in their hatred. In the introduction of your book, you said that victims of 9/11 were merely collateral against the evil American empire. And I don't even know how many leftists I've personally heard say that we deserved 9/11.
Right.
How is it that the left is so, they're really good at turning good people into bad and bad people into good?
Oh,
they're able to manipulate that. How do they do that? Why are they so effective?
Oh, absolutely. Just a little bit earlier, I just want, in case I misspoke, when I talked about Christ as our Savior redeeming, I meant to say redeeming us as human beings, not necessarily the earth. Right. But this is all very interwoven in it, because the left has made themselves self-appointed redeemers, that they're going to redeem man. That's the key point, whereas we believe it comes from a higher power. So this is interlinked with what you're asking now. So the left, what it does is it demonizes actually the victims. And this is what I was talking about in that clip that we just showed when I talked about that I study psychopaths and sociopaths. They're very good at this. If you study the world of sociopaths and psychopaths, they perpetrate the crime, but they will never say sorry. Keep an eye out for this. We have them all around us in our life. Keep an eye out for the people that never say sorry, always want the monopoly on victimhood. They want people to feel sorry for them because they're the victim. They will never, ever take accountability or responsibility for something they've done. And I could go on and on here. We'll discuss this later, because I'm very interested in Islam, Nazism, and communism, and how those totalitarian systems are sociopathic and psychopathic. It's very interesting. So what I wanted to say was, they're doing this. So 9/11 occurs, and somehow the left paints it that we must apologize.
This is a good place to show your next clip, because in this clip you talked about how the Obama administration ushered in the Muslim Brotherhood, and this part of the clip, it quickly escalated into the most awesome clip in the history of television. Watch.
But the problem is that Islamic Jihad is on the march. We have an administration that brought the Muslim Brotherhood into the government, and we have taken Islam, radical Islam, we have taken jihad, all of that out of our intelligence manuals because the Muslim Brotherhood told us to. How can we defend ourselves when Nidal Hassan and that massacred Fort Hood could have easily been prevented?
That was workplace violence. Now, come on.
But the fact is we can't defend ourselves against this ideology.
Tamara is angry at you right now. She's making her
mad,
faces.
But wait, this is my final point. So many people are afraid to come forward because they're called dangerous people. They're called Islamophobes. They're called racists. But we're the ones on the side of the victims, including Muslims. We have to stand up against Islam and what the left does. What the left does is call.
That is a dangerous statement.
No. Let me finish.
Yes.
I have two sentences.
It is not Islam.
Let me finish.
It is the bad people that are dangerous.
Let me finish. What the left.
You've made your point,
no,
sir.
I haven't
You've
made my
your
point.
That is a very dangerous statement.
I have two sentences. The paradigm that the left has created is if you stand up for the victims of Islam, you're told that you hate Muslims. This is BS. We are on the side of all people, including Muslims. We're not haters. The people who are haters are the people that are defending this ideology and allowing the victimization of all innocent people.
Where you are wrong, Jamie. Where you are
absolutely enabling jihad. Can I
finish?
You are enabling jihad. And your hands are soaked in the blood of the victims of Islam.
Can I finish my statement, Jimmy?
You are a disgusting person.
Oh, I wouldn't say disgusting. The statements you made are very bad. It is not Islam. It is the bad people that are bad.
I'm so tired of listening to this argument.
Then learn something new.
No, you learn something new. No, you learn.
It is not Islam.
It
is not Islam.
Then why,
it is the people that are bad.
Why are the jihadists constantly?
I am a Muslim. I follow Islam. Islam is not dangerous. People are
Why
bad.
are the jihadists constantly quoting the verses from the Quran? What does Surah 9:5 mean? What does Surah 9:29 mean? What does the verse of the sword mean? Start standing up for the victims of Islam instead of enabling jihad against the victims.
Hold on, we'll go back to neutral corners.
Now, hang on. Egging them on. That is wrong, Jamie.
Poor Amber was right in the middle, so we're going to go to you. You okay?
I'm sorry, Amber.
All right, go ahead.
No, I just want to say that exactly what Tamara and Kirsten were saying is that the political correctness surrounding this issue is killing us. It is weakening our nation and including our national security. It's putting us at risk that so many Americans don't want to face the reality surrounding this issue, and they're scared to talk about it. And that's what's going to hurt us in the future when we just talk about these future attacks in New York.
The moment Johar Tsarnaev started talking about the Islamic theology that inspired him, Holder sent those people in, gave them Miranda, and shut them up because they don't want to know the truth.
We got to come back. We'll continue, and we have predictions, closing thoughts from our audience right after the break.
Holy Toledo, Jamie Glazov. You were like a human machine gun of facts. It was like, it was awesome.
Thank you. There were some people that recommended anger management to me.
But it was a controlled anger. It was a beautiful thing to watch because a lot of people, when they get excited like that, they just start saying weird stuff. And it was like, it was brilliant. It was beautiful. I do have to ask, are you, as Tamara Holder said, a disgusting person?
Well, I hope not. I hope not, and I was called
and what were the commercials like? When they went to a break right after that. What did they?
Well, I'll tell you this. Just even to begin with, I'm half joking, but I will never take that back or even my temperament because I just want to say I'm so tired of listening to all this. And people will say, oh, why you get so upset? Why? Well, because you know what? I'm upset that there's a genocide being perpetrated against Christians throughout the world. I'm upset that 3 Israeli teenagers, for instance, were just kidnapped by Hamas and murdered, and yet the whole world is still blaming Israel instead of pointing their finger at a death cult, which is the Palestinian death cult. And, you know, every day I'm studying how the Muslim Brotherhood is banging the door down of a Coptic home in Egypt, and they rape the mother and the kids in front of the father, and then behead all of them because they're Christians, etc., etc. And this is happening every day. And Islam is in the teachings of Islam about the kafir, about the legitimacy of raping the kafir, about hatred of the infidel, etc., etc. This is what's causing it. And to see these people continuing to say on the left, and also certain Muslims that are denying this, you know, I've had enough of it, and a lot of us have had enough of it, and a lot of people contacted me, and apparently I guess I would call it my passion, spoke for a lot of people on there.
I was yelling at my television. I was like, go Jamie.
Thank you.
Thank
and
you.
So then
it was brilliant.
Thank you.
Really.
And then, well, sometimes we've had enough, And Anne-Marie also asked me about the commercial breaks. Well, look, I also want to say this. On the one hand, it's a great question because it's a human question. A lot of people ask me this because, yes, it's very interesting. You got into it, you're kind of shouting at each other, or maybe I shouted more, or they called me names more. What was it like during the commercial break? Well, let me tell you this, you know, and they were all talking. There was a discussion there during the commercial break about how it's getting maybe a little bit uncomfortable, whatever, but Anne-Marie, it doesn't matter to me in the sense that I didn't come there to make friends.
Right.
And I'm not there to be friends with apologists of terror and with jihad deniers and with leftists. These are the people that enabled communism throughout the Cold War. They're the people that are enabling jihad today through their denial. And that's why I want to talk a little bit about what I was saying to Michael, that he's enabling that. I want to explain
I want to say, Mike Gauss was his name,
yes, but
with America Together Foundation.
Yeah.
Just quickly, who is he and what is his foundation, the man that was yelling at you?
Well, listen, I don't really spend too much time studying this particular gentleman. I'll just tell you what I know about him from watching on TV, reading the little that I've read of him, but enough to know I've never seen anything that he has said on TV in his debates or in his articles anywhere where he really takes on the teachings of Islam and says, there, as a Muslim, there is a problem in my religion because of these teachings, because all 4 schools of Islamic jurisprudence support and advocate Islamic supremacism, that there is a teaching that Islam must subjugate the whole world, and that there are teachings in the Quran about hating the kafir and the infidel, and we as Muslims must denounce this and work to repudiate these teachings in Islam because Islam is part of the problem. He doesn't do that, and that's a problem.
That's
a problem. But I wanted to say that something that I feel strongly about, you know, I was called a disgusting person on the show by a certain individual. I guess I'm a disgusting person that I devote most of my life and a lot of my life to the victims of Islamic gender apartheid. I spend days looking at victims of Islamic acid attacks on women, of honor killings. I deal with female genital mutilation, crying on behalf of these victims, doing what I can along with heroes like Nani Darwish, Pamela Geller, Robert Spencer, Brigitte Gabriel, David Horowitz, to try to help the victims. I'm a disgusting person, I guess. Let me say what I kind of think is disgusting a bit, that during the commercial break, and no names need to be mentioned, there was one particular individual who started saying, oh, this is all so uncomfortable. With this shouting, you know, things should be talked about in a very peaceful manner. And, you know, I was thinking, well, you know what? The Christians aren't really that comfortable in Egypt at the moment, or in Nigeria, or in Egypt under what's happening under jihad. I'm not so concerned about how we speak to each other here if we're getting at the truth. I'm worried about the comfort of people, not our comfort, and how uncomfortable it is in this studio. I'm worried about the comfort of the Copts in Egypt, of the Jewish people in Israel that are the victims of Palestinian terror and of Hamas terror every day. And then one person said during the commercial break, I don't discuss religion with me, because this person was uncomfortable at the shouting that it started. And I remember afterwards, you don't want to talk about religion. But guess what? The Christian in Nigeria and the Christian in Egypt and the Christian in Iraq, when the jihadists break into their home at this moment and say, what religion are you? They don't have the luxury of not talking about religion. And that's where my heart is, with those people. And the left should be ashamed of itself. Finally, when will the left stand up for the victims of totalitarianism?
Thank you. You're the best. So many people don't understand, and you're able to break it down for them. And you do that through Front Page Magazine. You do it in your book, United in Hate. Dear Lord, please, 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 people, read United in Hate. This book, it really opened my eyes to so many things. And I want to talk to you briefly. I'm going to move away from Islam for just a little bit, because I want to talk about one of the things that you were writing about, 60s war protesters, Jerry Rubin. He wrote, if there had been no Vietnam War, we would have invented one. If the Vietnam War ends, we'll find another war. If this ideology is true, and it seemed to be during the Bush years, where are those people now? Where are the people who claim they hate violence so much? They hate war, they hate violence. They seem perfectly okay with everything that's happening in the world that's so completely violent. And a lot of that is Islam.
Absolutely.
It stems from Barack Obama.
Absolutely.
And they seem perfectly okay with that. Does that mean that they have no principles and no character, that they stand for nothing?
No.
Is it all politics?
No. It means there's a selective indignation. For instance, they do have principles, but the things that they talk about are often just weapons. So, for instance, we're for gay rights. We're for gay rights. I know people in academia I was with for more than 10 years. They were for gay rights. And I come to them and I say, hey, look what's happening to homosexuals in Palestinian culture, in Iran, under the Islamic world. You want to sign a petition on behalf of gay people and how they're persecuted under Islam? All of a sudden, they're not interested in gay rights.
Why?
Women's rights, same thing.
Why? It makes no sense. Why?
Well, wait a minute. It does make sense. It does make sense if you're a leftist, because the overall agenda of the leftist is to break down the host society. They want to break this society down. Oh, so I'm for women's rights, abortion rights, and rights for the government to pay for condoms, or whatever it is that they come up with. But when you bring up how women are being killed in honor killings under Islam, then they're not for women's rights, because women's rights is just a weapon and a tool for them to work on destroying their host society. David Horowitz, Paul Hollander, they've documented all this. Read their books, Radical Sun by David Horowitz, Political Primitives by Paul Hollander. But here's what I want to say quickly, that attitude that you just said there, those leftists in the 60s and the 70s, Jane Fonda, Tom Hayden, the anti-war protesters, let me tell you this much. What happened to the boat people, what happened in the re-education camps in Vietnam, and how the Khmer Rouge took over in Indochina and the mass murder that happened there, the blood is on their hands because they were complicit. Their hands were in solidarity with the tyrants of North Vietnam and with the Viet Cong. Even the North Vietnamese came forward after the war and thanked the anti-war movement. And so my point is, and this is why I want to come full circle here, because people are trying to slander me and intentionally misrepresent what I said to Michael Gauss on that show. When I say that you're enabling jihad, and when I say that your hands are drenched in the blood of the victims of Islam, I'm not saying it because it's just a Muslim person. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm talking about jihad denial. And so let me say this quickly. Anybody that studies the Holocaust knows that Holocaust denial, the people that are involved in Holocaust denial, it's very sophisticated, but Holocaust denial is founded on the perpetration of a future Holocaust. They're denying the Holocaust in order to erase the evil of what causes the Holocaust, so then they can cause another one. Holocaust denial is interconnected with the wish and impulse for a future Holocaust. And it enables a future Holocaust because it creates an environment where you can't say that was evil and what a tragedy it was. So when I say that to Michael Gauss, when he says Islam is not a problem, and I'll try to get this out quickly, look what's happening here. When these individuals like Michael Gauss are saying, Islam is not a problem, it's not a problem, you're a racist, you're an Islamophobe, they are now in positions of power. They create a climate in which the Muslim Brotherhood front groups come to the Obama administration and say, we don't want Islam, radical Islam, jihad, whatever. We don't want that in your FBI manuals. We don't want that in your CIA manuals and your training manuals. Take it out. Obama administration takes all of that out of the training manuals. So what happens? The Tsarnaevs, the Russians get involved into contact with the FBI and say, the Tsarnaevs, what can the FBI do? They can only go and start asking them what kind of ice cream they like. It's like during the Cold War. Imagine we weren't allowed to look into Russians or people from Eastern Europe with Russian-sounding names or connected. Imagine we weren't allowed to think of communism or Marxism during the Cold War in terms of trying to protect ourselves, let's say from Soviet spies or whatever. So what my point is the people that are denying the roots of jihad denial are creating an environment where the Boston Massacre occurred, where Fort Hood occurred. And as we know, Nidal Hasan was teaching in the army, teaching that infidels need acid poured down their throats, and nobody complained, and he wasn't fired because of the mentality of people like Gauss that have framed the cultural discourse. And because of that, Nidal Hasan was able to kill many people, 13 Americans. So what I'm saying is jihad denial is interlinked with the enabling of jihad.
Mao's China. You talk about this in Chapter 7. I didn't know how horrible Mao's China was until I read your book. And I feel bad saying that, but I really didn't. You talked about starvation and cannibalism, that parents ate their children. They boiled the bones of their children and to use as fertilizer. And yet, during that time, actress Shirley MacLaine visited China, and she talked about it as though it was paradise.
And Anita Dunn, on the, in the Obama administration years back, I think she's gone now, said that Mao is one of her heroes. And it's not a coincidence that she's in a leftist administration. They love all this stuff because Mao, his venture was to create a new planet.
And you talk about Potemkin villages that just completely fool people, like Sean Penn and all these idiots that travel, and the travelers actually.
Well, this is the thing. Tamara Holder said that she was in Morocco, I think, for 2 weeks.
So she knew more than Brigitte Gabriel about Islam.
But my book is based on fellow travelers and all political pilgrims. Tamara Holder, there's people that spent a far longer time in totalitarian regimes. I'm talking about years, and they worshipped those tyrants. But here's the key in terms of what you're saying. There's one incident where a certain fellow traveler said to the tyrant, "You deceived us." And the tyrant said back to him, "You wanted to be deceived." And so there's also something going on in the left where they want to listen to these Muslim Brotherhood front groups here, CARE, MSA, ISNA, all of them. Listen, in the explanatory memorandum there was a document discovered that the Muslim Brotherhood wrote. It's called the explanatory memorandum. It came to the surface in the Holy Land Foundation trial. The Muslim Brotherhood explained, we're going to destroy the house from within. And one of the ways is through this and appearing nice. And the left here wants to hear that stuff because it's a Stockholm syndrome as well.
Jamie, we're out of time. United in Hate, thank you for your appearance on Sean Hannity. That gave me hope for Fox News, frankly. I hope that more networks will be brave and just talk about it. Just get it out there. Show both sides of the story. And got to also give a shout out to Steve LeBeau with rightsightings.com. He provided the clip for us. So
thank you.
Thank you for what you do.
I want to just end on this note that my father, when he was being persecuted by the KGB, he used to look at a picture of my brother and I, and he knew that he was going to the Gulag perhaps for many years, but he didn't have a choice to stand for the truth because his heart was with the people that were in prison because of their conscience. And my mother, as a very young girl, translated the samizdat in Russia, and they risked their lives on behalf of freedom and on behalf of the victims of totalitarianism. And today, we have to keep stressing today that we are those people as well. When they call us disgusting and they try to pretend that we're dangerous, no, we are actually the real humanitarians that are fighting for the victims of totalitarianism, and they are the shameless people who I would say live in the moral gutter and sewer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the Glazov Gang. Come back next week.